What's up out there to all of my fellow gold diggers? This is your girl Rita, also known as the self proclaimed gold digger. If this is your first time to my channel, welcome. I am so glad to have you. But if you are a fellow gold digger, welcome back. Y'all know I love and I appreciate each and every one of you. And tonight we are doing another episode of Tipsy Tuesday. Tonight we are finally wrapping up the book of I Will Teach You to Be Rich that we had started on at least last month. Okay. So we're going to be getting into that really quick. Y'all know I got to do my quick social media checks just to make sure I'm good. And then we are going to jump into the topic. I hope everyone has had a wonderful Labor Day weekend and that things have gone well over the weekend. Let me see. You do one other check before we get into the topic. Let's see. Okay, and I am good there as well. All right, so Tipsy Tuesday. If you're new, have never been, basically what we do is I share some tips as we take some sips. So I am still on my water kick, still trying to be healthy. So that's all I'm sipping on. I always say that you do not have to sip on anything alcoholic. Also want to make sure that I thank all of my ride or die people, all my fellow gold diggers who have been rocking with me each and every week. I'm seeing that the channel is growing, so I am definitely appreciative of that and appreciative of all of you for your support. So thank you to my A1 Day ones, as well as thank you to the new people who have been finding my content helpful as well. Okay. All right. So I do have a couple of church announcements, but before we get into the church announcements, I'm going to go ahead and do our Tipsy Tuesday song. I always say, once you hear that song, that is your official welcome to Tipsy Tuesday. All right. So here we go. Tipsy Tuesday, tipsy Tuesday, tipsy Tuesday, get your tips and pass the do say tipsy Tuesday. All right, so that was your official welcome to Tipsy Tuesday. And if you have been finding my content helpful, please be sure to like and share with a friend. And if you are not already subscribed, go ahead and subscribe. All right, so a couple of quick church announcements that I have. First and foremost, y'all, I am doing Tipsy Tuesday tonight, and it is my baby's birthday. My son, he turned 15 today, so happy birthday to him. We celebrated him this weekend as well as on today. So yeah, wish my baby a happy birthday and everything. So I had to make sure I gave a special shout out to him. Now, my other church announcement is, y'all, it's time for Side Hustle Saturday. Side Hustle Saturday. So there will be a Side Hustle Saturday coming up this Saturday. I don't even know what the date is, but whatever this Saturday is, be sure to be tuned in for Side Hustle Saturday. If you have a side hustle business, or if you're not a business owner, or if you're just thinking about opening a business, or you are a consumer who has supported a business, I have, for me, observing the last couple of weekends, I've been out and about. I've been outside, and your girl ready to come back inside. So I've been outside at InvestFest, seeing different things. Also, this past weekend, we went to a local festival, food truck festival, saw a couple of things, working with small businesses. And y'all know, everywhere I go, I'm observing, I'm learning. I'm trying to gather information, gather knowledge, seeing what I can learn from my various experiences. And I have some things that I need to share to small business owners after observing some things at InvestFest as well as at the food truck festival, because I want all of us to be successful and win. So we will be talking about kind of along the lines of marketing, so to speak, marketing your small business and the best practices when it comes to marketing, as well as some practices that you might want to steer clear of. And like I said, it should apply to everyone, even if you're not a business owner. If you're a consumer of any product, you have probably recognized some of these things or seen some of these things occur. And so you might be able to better navigate the situations as well when they do happen. Okay. So be sure to tune in to Side Hustle Saturday this Saturday. I don't know the time. It's probably gonna be like around 1 o'clock, but just be on the lookout for when I'm gonna try to be proactive and put up a post, hopefully Thursday, Friday at the latest, about the time so that y'all can check it out live and be able to join me there. All right. So this concludes your church announcements. Please govern yourselves accordingly. Okay. All right. So let's get into tonight's topic, y'all. I'm in a good mood tonight. Also, too, I'm not trying to keep y'all long, but y'all know sometimes when I get to talking, it ends up taking a while. So, but let's go ahead and wrap up the book. I Will Teach You to Be Rich. Now, by Ramit Sethi. I will say, please check out, if you want to get your finances together, if your finances are already together, but you want to improve upon them, please check out this book, buy it, borrow it from the library, however you do. Check it out because it does have very helpful and very practical guidance when it comes to your money and to your finances. So I cannot say enough about, you really need to check it out. Now, with that being said, as I was coming to the end of this book, I have realized that the way I presented this book to you guys and the way I even consumed this book, like me reading it, I kind of went about it the wrong way. So I told you before that I had tried to read this book and I started and I stopped, and I thought it was because of the fact that we were, like, the first part of the book is talking heavily about credit, and we had tackled credit heavily at the time that I was reading the book, and I thought maybe that was why I didn't continue on with the book. But I realize now, because the same thing happened when I first read Tiffany's book, the Budgetnice's book, Get Good with Money. The same thing happened. So my issue is that I approach these books as if they were like regular, I won't even say fictional books, because I read a lot of nonfiction books, but I read like a lot of autobiographies in the nonfiction. But I approached it the wrong way. I approached it in the same manner that I approach like my autobiographies and my fiction books. And these books, like Get Good with Money by Tiffany, the Budgetnista, and this book, I Will Teach You to Be Rich by Ramit Sethi, these are not books that you can just sit down, read, and consume. You need to sit down, read, do some work, come back, make sure you got it right, continue reading, and then do some more work. Like, it's probably, like, ideally, it probably, like, you could read the book within like a week or so, but if you really want to get the full benefit out of the book, you probably need to spend like a couple of months in the book. So I kind of rushed myself through the book because, like I said, I told y'all, with me doing the review about it, it would force me to read the book, and it did for the most part. It forced me to read it. But these are books that you cannot consume like any other regular book that you read. And that's what I realized at the end, because y'all know, right before I did last week I was talking about InvestFest, but I want to say the week before I didn't even talk about the book because I told y'all I didn't read it. And once again, it's not that the book was bad or anything. It was like, it's just a lot of information, and I didn't do the steps that I needed to take in order to go to the next chapter or fully appreciate the next chapter. So if you get these books, if you get I Will Teach You to Be Rich or Get Good with Money, just know that these are not books that you just sit down and read. Otherwise, I mean, you'll get the information, but you really need to take the action steps. So allow yourself the time as well as the flexibility to be able to implement the things that are being talked about in the book. Okay. I cannot emphasize that enough. And I think that was what my problem was when I read this book, as well as when I first read Tiffany's book. Like, I was reading these books as like I'm doing my walks and stuff like that. And it's like, it's really like I don't want to say it's like a textbook because it's not like boring like a textbook, but these are really books where you need to sit down, take some notes, pull up your accounts and different things like that, and check on different things and while you're reading. So you might have to stop and do these kinds of things to make sure that you are following through on these different items that are in the book. So I apologize because I realized at the end that I didn't really present the book in the best light possible. Let's see. What's up, Still Rocks? I see that you have some comments. Let me put them up on the screen really quick. He says, we in here. So glad to have you. One of my A1 day ones. Oh, thank you, Still Rocks. And he says, happy birthday, sir. I will definitely let him know. But yes, so give yourself some time when you read these books. Please, please, please. And honestly, after I've gone through this book, I really want to, I said probably I'm going to read it again before the year is out. And I'm going to spend at least a month, possibly two, to make sure I'm actually making sure I'm getting everything set up like how they've outlined in the book, or how best it would be for me to make sure that I am set up in a financially secure way, so to speak. So like I have certain things in place, but I need to check on some stuff. There's some stuff I haven't checked on since it's been set up, or some stuff I need to make sure, did I first set it up this way, or how is it? So I know for me personally, I have not done certain things. I have not automated like my bill pay stuff. Like I need to just take the time out to do it. Like I know this is what I should do. I know that's what was talked about in this book, in Tiffany's book, but have I actually sat down to do it? And so I need to, when I go through the book again, I need to make sure I'm carving out time, not only to read it, but to put the action steps in place. So, and as I was consuming it too, because I was consuming it for you guys to like do a review. I won't even say a review, just to give you the information. I wasn't, I was trying to get the information to relay to you guys, but I wasn't getting the information for my complete understanding and my complete implementation. It was like, let me make sure I'm giving them the correct information, the correct facts, but it's like I need to consume it in a way that I can implement it. I hope that makes sense to y'all. But anyway, so nevertheless, I apologize for the way I presented it, because I'm realizing now this is not a book that you can just dole out really quickly. You really need to take some time to process it, as well as do the things that are discussed in the book. But as an overall recap of the book, of course, they talked about credit. I'm not going to go into that. I feel like I've talked about credit so much to you guys, but y'all know the general idea with credit is you want to have the best credit score possible, because it opens many doors for you, not just when you need to borrow money or get a car loan or get a mortgage or anything. There's a lot of different factors that come into you having a good credit score. So make sure you do take the necessary steps in order to get your credit in order, and look at previous videos that I've done if you don't know what to do, or like I said, read the book. They do a good job of talking about what you need to do for your credit and getting like credit card debt and things like that taken care of. Okay. Next thing with the book, they do talk about debt and making sure you pay down your debts, more specifically credit card debt. They don't really talk about, or they don't really emphasize, I should say, you being in such a hurry to pay off your mortgage debt or student loan debt, but definitely credit card debt. And one of the reasons why you want to make sure you get your credit card debt paid off is because the credit card debt is some of the debt that can easily influence your credit score in a negative way. But on the flip side, when you get it taken care of, it can easily influence your credit in a positive way, versus these long-term debts like student loans, a mortgage. They affect your credit score, but they don't affect it as quickly or change it as quickly as what can be done when it comes to credit cards. So if you have credit card debt, pay it off, pay it off each month or whatever. Get it under control, reel it in. If you're behind on it, make sure you figure out what you need to do to get that taken care of. And part of that is knowing, in this book, he does not like to use the word budget, but essentially he calls it, I think, like a spending plan or whatever. Create you a spending plan, budget, whatever you want to call it. You just need to know how your money is being spent each month, and whether it's on bills, whether it's on extracurricular activities, whatever it's on, you need to make sure you have planned out how you are spending the money that is coming into your account each month, and making sure you have a plan to pay yourself each month before you start paying other people. So that was also a key principle, or a key thing that he emphasized, is making sure you pay yourself first. And by paying yourself first, that's either through savings or investing, because there is a difference between saving and investing. Pay yourself first and then pay your bills, but create some kind of spending plan, some kind of budget, so you know what's coming in as well as what's coming out. Okay. Making sure I don't have any other comments or anything too. The other thing is, which is part of the reason why I said that I really need to take some time to implement some of the things that are talked about in the book. But the other thing that they highly emphasize is making sure you're automating your savings and automating your investing. So y'all know I have my savings automated, I have my investing automated, but there are things I need to check on when it comes to my investing to make sure that it is flowing like it's supposed to. Because I have not checked on it since I first set it up a couple of years ago, or whatever. And ideally, you should probably be looking at that at least every year, every other year, on some kind of biannual basis, to see how things are going. And I have not done that. Also, they are not only just automating your savings and investing. The biggest thing for me is automating my bill pay. I have not done that. I am taking up a lot of mental energy and making it mentally taxing on me, because I do not automate my bill pay. I think I only have like maybe a handful of the bills that I have that are actually like automated on a regular basis or whatever, but I need to make sure all of them are automated so that I'm not wasting my time, wasting my energy, wondering, okay, this was due at the first of the month, this one is due in the middle of the month, this one's due at the end of the month. And with that being said, I need, because they talk about this in the book, getting all of your bills like due around the same time, so that you'll know, hey, all of these things are due, at the first of the month, instead of them being like spread out all throughout the month on different days that you have to keep track of. So I need to take some time out to contact all my different credit card companies, utility companies, things of that nature, to say, hey, can I move this due date to this date, this particular date here? And then once I do that, set up that automatic bill pay system so that I don't have to think about when the bill, when I need to pay the bill or anything like that. I need to really, really take that in. I really just need to take these action steps. And I have not been taking the action steps to get this set up. And he talked about in the book, because I don't think I mentioned it the other week, the last week that we talked about the book, is he says that he pretty much has all his bills due around the same, all his bills due around the same time. Let's say he has all of his bills due around the 1st, and with automatic bill pay for the bills to come out. Then he has like on the 5th, all of his automatic savings come out, and then like going to his, high yield savings account. And then like on the 7th, he has all of his automated investing coming out. And he suggested like you just set it up. Like he used the example of like if you get paid monthly, which I know a lot of people don't get paid monthly, like I know I don't get paid monthly. Um, but just using that example, if you get paid monthly, to go ahead and do that. But if you don't get paid monthly, like I get paid at least, every 2 weeks or whatever. So if you do that, set it up where maybe at the first of the month or with that first paycheck, that is the money that is used for paying all of your bills. And then that second paycheck of the month, that is the paycheck that is used to automate, that goes into the automated savings, and that goes into the automated investing. So those are the things I need to make sure I get set up. Like I said, more specifically, the bill pay stuff, because my savings investing is already automated, but the bill pay is not. And then another thing he had suggested, he was like, if that is not feasible for you, then having a buffer in your account, which just means like, hey, you already have like a month's worth or half a month's worth of expenses that you already know. So if they do take the automatic payments out for your bills, you still have enough money in your account. You have this buffer of like half a month's savings or half a month's expenses or a whole month's expenses where it's not going to affect you. And I've talked about that before. Like I have, my account never hits zero. Like my checking account never hits zero. Like I have an arbitrary number that I know when I get to that number, that's my zero or whatever. That's my zero. And that's how I look at it. Excuse me. So I think I might use that particular method just because it's already something that I'm already kind of doing already to make it easier for me. But like I said, I really need to set up the automated bill pay to free up my mental capacity and my mental bandwidth and everything. So let's see. What's up? All right, I see I have a couple comments. What's up, Mr. Mahoney? Haven't seen you in a while. Actually, I need to call you but I'll probably call you tomorrow. He says, good evening. What's up, Mr. Mahoney? And Still Rock says, I only have a few bills on auto pay. I like to control the big ones just in case. LOL. I feel you, Still Rocks, because that's how I am. I ain't gonna say I was. I am. That is how I am right now. But I realize too, it's not serving me well because every now and then I'll forget. And now I have to pay this late fee because I forgot to pay it on time or whatever. And I don't like that. I don't like that at all. And even though it doesn't happen often, like maybe it'll happen once or maybe twice a year or something like that, I hate when it happens. And it's like it'll be on my mind and the due date will come and it's like, the due date, this is me, I'm just speaking for me. I know the due date is coming. Let's say maybe it's 3 days before the due date and you're like, oh yeah, I need to pay that bill or whatever. And then for whatever reason, things get busy, stuff starts happening. And next thing you know, it's a day after the daggone due date. And I'm like, dang it, I knew I was supposed to pay it. And I was supposed to sit down and pay it that evening. And I did not pay it. So I hate when that happens. I really, really, really do. Because I'm like, dang it. Because usually I'm only like a day late or something. But and sometimes you can call them and get the late fee waived or whatever. But once again, it's more work for me to go and call them for that time I missed and be like, hey, can you waive the late fee or whatever? It's just, I don't know. It's getting to the point for me that is getting mentally exhausting. And I rather just put that buffer in place. Had to, make sure I have the money in there and just automate it. Especially there is one bill that I hate paying because they are the only bill where they do not have most people have like a login, like you can log in and look at the bill and stuff like that and pay your account. They have nothing logged in. And I am notorious for forgetting to pay that bill. Now that one I probably miss more than like a couple times a month or whatever. And it's like a $7 late fee every time. But I'm like, for these fees y'all charging, y'all could at least have an online portal. So when I think about it, I can at least sign in and pay the bill. So it's like the only way it's for utility. So the only way you can pay it is you got to have your, you can either go down to the place and, drop off your payment or whatever, write out a check or whatever, or go inside the building and pay, or you have to have your account number, and then you go to the website, put in your account number, and then it'll pull up your thing. And usually I have to do that once the bill is late or whatever, or when I'm trying to pay it. But because usually I will try and mail it in, because they do charge you. Then they charge you a fee for using your credit card and stuff. So I'm like, it's extra work for me to mail it in on time, because usually I'm not, I'm mailing it like the day before it's due, so it's not going to get there. So then I got to drive down to the building to make sure it actually gets there on time. So I'm like, that's the one bill I really hate, and that's the one that I'm notoriously late paying. And I blame it on the fact that they don't have a online sign in for me to do it or whatever. But that's only part of the problem. I'm part of the problem too. So I hate it. But yeah, I need to set it up. I need to set up this bill pay and make my life a whole lot easier. But I definitely feel where you're coming from. It's like we want to have some semblance of control, and then you realize, hell, I ain't even in control. Like, this is not working for me. I am out of control. Let me see. Jason says, oh, thank you, Jason. He says, good teaching. And then he also says, I agree with the bottom line of money to keep an account. Now that automatic is tricky. I know, LOL. I did not have my trash on auto, and I forgot to pay. They took my trash can. It had to pay late fees and reinstatement fees. I now have that on auto. Yeah, I don't mean to laugh, but it is kind of funny. They said they're going to take back the trash can. You ain't pay the trash bill. We going to take back out. That's kind of petty to me. We going to take back the whole daggone trash can. Now you got to go to the landfill, wherever that might be. Take your trash out until you pay these reinstatement fees. Yes. And yeah, it's like it gets to the point where it's like it's too time consuming and mentally taxing for it. And yeah, it's just crazy. So I gotta get these bills set up on auto pay. And then Still Rock says, I don't always do it, but I try to take advantage of my reminders in my phone to remind me. You better than me. The buffer is critical, plus the emergency fund. Many people don't have it. Gotta hustle to get it up. Very, very true. I do not rely on the reminders on my phone, because y'all, I get so many notifications. I don't even pay those reminders any attention at all. Unless it's something major dealing with my kids that I put in there or something like that. Then I'm like, oh yeah, that's what they got going on. But yeah, I need to do better at, I need to do better at cutting out the noise, because part of it is I'm ignoring stuff because I have to keep reminding myself so many times. So when I set the reminder, I'm setting it for like 2 weeks, 1 week, 3 days, 1 day. So it's like I'm not paying attention to it because of that. And then I like what you said about the buffer and then the emergency fund. Yeah, I forget what the statistic is, but I know I've said it before that most Americans cannot cover $1,000 emergency, or it might even be a $500 emergency, but I want to say it was like $1,000 emergency. So that's why I think a lot of these financial pundits, they will say, get an emergency fund with at least $1,000 in it, because that can really hurt somebody or hurt most Americans if something was to arise or come up. So yeah, that emergency fund is key to save people. And knock on wood, I'm so thankful for my emergency fund in that I have not had to use it. But it is a good safety net to know that it's there. And Still Rock says, that's why I'm working this security job now, to boost up my buffer and rebuild my emergency fund. Good. That's good. At least you're self-aware, and you know, hey, I can't just wait for something to happen. I need to be proactive and take some steps and make it happen as well. And still rocks, you might be surprised too. When I was when everything was going on with the pandemic, I was doing all the different side hustles and stuff, but just like selling stuff, putting stuff on Facebook Marketplace, selling any old clothes or whatever that you might have, you'll be surprised, old sneakers and stuff like that. You can quickly get up I won't say quickly, relatively quickly get like a few $100s just selling stuff you already have. And then Still Rock says, yes, got to use that routing and account number for some, debit for some, credit for some. I try to avoid these fees like the plague. Yeah, I'm like, how y'all don't have an online portal? Like everybody else, I can just put in my name, put in your little username and password and get into your account. Like y'all don't have anywhere for me to like log in. I got to actually know the daggone account number. Like my actual, it's the sewer bill or whatever. So we have a sewer bill and we have a water bill. So it's like I gotta know the actual my sewer account number just to pay this stupid thing. But anyway, Still Rock says not took the trash can. Yes, Jason, that's funny. LOL, they are ruthless out here. They are petty. That was petty to take the daggone trash can. What's up, April? She says, hey, all, good to see you. And then April says, thankfully, I can afford a 1K emergency. I remember a time when I couldn't. Yes, it's a blessing to be able to do it and not have to be worried or be stressed. But I remember those times when it's like, I remember those times when I didn't have an emergency fund at all. And you're trying to put things on credit just to get by. And then this is Curtis Ziegler. Good to see you. I think this is your first time joining. He says, hey, glad to have you as well. All right. So y'all, let me see how I'm doing on time. So I'm doing okay on time. I have a few more things that I want to talk about that the book touched upon. And if you're just joining, we are doing a recap on I'm combining two different books. I Will Teach You to Be Rich by Ramit Sethi. We talked about, debt, automating savings, investing, as well as bill pay. That is my struggle, is automating the bill pay. And then he talks about stocks. So we talked about stocks the last time we talked about the book. He goes more in depth into the stocks too. And just saying that you need to diversify in the type of stocks that you should get in terms of, we talked about the different ones too back then, but he was saying, try not to get like mutual funds. You should look into index funds or target day funds. So the target day funds are, target date. I think it's target date fund, DATE, target date fund, where basically you set a date in the future. Let's say it's, 20 years from now. So that would be 2044. So let's say you decided to get a stock account or whatever, and the target date is in September of 2044 or whatever is when it would come. And what it does, the target date funds, what the good thing about that, it reallocates your stocks and your bonds. So it kind of like diversifies your accounts as it gets closer to the date. So when you first open the account, it's going to be more heavily stocks that is part of your portfolio and less a bond. Y'all know, well, you may or may not know, stocks are a little bit more risky. Bonds are more secured. And he talked about the different types of bonds you can get. You can get government bonds. You can get commercial bonds. There are municipal bonds, which are from like the local government and things like that. But the bonds are more stabilized and more secure. And he talked about people who have the bonds and people you might be surprised who are heavily invested in bonds. So usually as you get closer to your retirement age, you want to have less of stocks and more of bonds because the bonds are more secure. The reason why the bonds are more secure is just because, well, I'm not going to say this is my understanding because I'm not first and foremost, I am not an expert on this, okay? But usually if the stocks go down, the bonds go up, okay? But the bonds are not, they don't vary as much in, their value as what stocks do. Like, the stock market could drop, but usually when the stock market drops, the bonds will go up. So that helps counterbalance anything that's going on in the stock market, and that is like your protection. So that is what the target date fund does for you. It's like as you're getting closer to the target date that you want to set is going to be close to like when you want to retire. So if you want to retire in 10 years, then you would pick a target date fund for that. If you wanted to retire in 20 years, that's your target date fund will be projected out for 20 years. If you're not going to retire for 30, 40 years, whatever it is, that target date fund is projected out to that. The date is when you want to retire and be able to access those funds. So it reallocates or redistributes the stocks and the bonds as it gets closer to your retirement, because when you do retire, you want to have your money. So you don't want to have it invested in stocks, which are more volatile, and now you've lost some of your money and it's time for you to retire. So that's why it kind of reallocates it and gives you more bonds as you get closer to the date, your retirement date. And he says that you do need to diversify. So if you get index funds and things like that, you need to diversify and do what's called like asset allocation. Now, y'all won't have to read the book yourself for all of this. If you want, don't ask me specifically what it is. But basically, it's like getting different types of stocks in different sectors or different industries, because there are different companies that have stocks. And just really quickly, there are like large cap companies, mid cap companies, and small cap companies. And basically these companies are, the large cap companies are companies that are making over 10 billion with the B, $10 billion. The mid cap are any companies that's making like from 1 to 5 billion. And then the small cap are the companies that are making like $1 billion. So you don't want to be, and then there's also other types of stocks as well too with that. But you don't want to be, have it just with like small cap companies. You want to have some large cap, you want to have some mid cap companies and that kind of thing, so that you are diversifying your portfolio. But you essentially are the one having to do the research when it comes to like index funds, researching those different funds to see, hey, this is the fund I want to invest in. The target date fund, you don't have to do, you still have to do a little bit of your due diligence, but it's more straightforward for you, that you don't have to do as much research, because the target date fund is going to reallocate it for you. Now, I mentioned to you that he said he kind of like, well, I'm not going to say kind of, he did say it's best to look into index funds versus mutual funds. The reason being is mutual funds are a little bit more costly, because it is using actual people to kind of help pick and choose the funds that you're in, versus the index funds is just using computer generated to decide on the funds that you want to invest in. Okay, so the computer is picking the stocks, picking the funds, but with the mutual funds, it's done by actual person. I forget what it's called or whatever, but it's done by actual person. And he was talking about like they are only accurate, or they have gains like 75% of the time. So it's like you're paying these fees, and not gains 75. They're only like accurate like 25% of the time or whatever. So you're paying these fees for these people who only have like a 25% success rate or whatever. So that beats the stock market or whatever. So it's like you might as well put your money in an index fund and let the computer figure it out. But you definitely want to diversify. You don't want to pick like he's not an advocate for you picking like single stocks or anything like that. And he also says he's also mostly talking to people who have 401ks, where your employer kind of gives you some pre-selected plans where you have to decide, okay, well, yes, out of these 5, this is the area I want to go into. I hope that makes sense, but if not, read the book. Like I said, and that is why I said this book, it has a lot of information and a lot of helpful information, but you need to take time to read it as well as digest it. And then once it's been digested, you still got to go and apply it to your situation so you can get the most benefit from it. Okay. Let me see really quick. Curtis says, yes, first time. What are your topics? So right now, well, you probably have gathered, we're talking about I Will Teach You to Be Rich by Ramit Sethi, and just some money talk. And Curtis says, bonds provide what type of rates? Now, Curtis, you're going to have to do your own research on that. I'm not sure. They're just more stable. So the rates are going to be lower than what you would get from the stock market, just because the stock market is more volatile and it can increase at a more rapid rate than what bonds can do. And then also April says, basically creating yourself your own pension, pretty much. And that's what I won't say employers have done with like the 401ks and stuff, your own retirement plans. No, still write some of Professor Gold Digger tonight, breaking it all down. I'm trying, but y'all, please do your own due diligence and research. And then he also says, I like books that have workbooks with them. Yes. And this book does not, I don't know if it has an accompanying PDF or anything like that. It might have that. I have to look in my Audible app, but I don't think it has a workbook. But I will say this. Tiffany's Get Good with Money, she did come out with a workbook, and that workbook I showed you, that was bogus. That was somebody probably fake advertising online, because I saw the real one and it was definitely different. But Tiffany does have a workbook for her book, and for this very reason. So that what Still Rocks had mentioned, so that you can kind of dive in a little bit deeper and see and put on paper the things that you need to do and the steps that you need to take. Because even though in this book and in Tiffany's book before she came out with the workbook, they are giving you like the steps and everything, but it's not in a workbook format for you to kind of like write down your own numbers or write down all your own bills, expenses, your income, and that kind of thing. But Still Rocks, definitely check out Tiffany's workbook and probably work through it that way and everything. I need to probably get the workbook as well. But yeah, you definitely need to take some time out to apply this stuff. And that's what I said, I'm gonna be reading this book again and giving myself more than just a couple of weeks to get through it. I'm probably gonna need a couple of months to get through it. Now, he also mentioned FIRE, which we have not talked about. And FIRE stands for Financial Independence, Retire Early. And basically with that is where you pretty much have set up your investments as well as your income to the point where you can achieve what's considered financial independence, and you can retire early. And financial independence is where the money in your investment accounts are making enough money for you to live off of, and you don't have to necessarily work again. So that is essentially what the FIRE movement is about. And I know it was really, really popular probably about 5 years ago, like right before the pandemic and everything. And I was talking about FIRE. I still want to do FIRE. I still plan to retire early. Things have changed a little bit. And I'm also not as debt focused as I was, like paying off all the debt, because that is kind of how the FIRE movement, they are very, very, or a lot of them are very highly focused on paying off debt so that you can start being able to invest more. And I realized, I told y'all, I was like really, really gung-ho with paying off all this debt and everything. And then I won't say I kind of got burnt out, but I guess maybe that's what happened. I kind of got burnt out. And with the pandemic, it kind of made you realize like what's really important. Like, I'm doing all this stuff and I want to still be able to spend time with family, friends, enjoy different things. So I have taken a step back. I'm still trying to pay off my debt. I'm still, in the process of paying it off, but I'm just not doing it as aggressively as I was before. But if you're interested in the FIRE movement, there are tons of videos out there. They're very inspiring, very inspirational about people being able to retire early. And most of these people, they're not retiring early to do nothing. It's more so the time freedom that they have. Like they don't have to work unless they want to work. Most of them are still working. Like the person who wrote this book, Ramit Sethi, he is financially independent. He does not have to work another day in his life because the money from his investments is enough to pay his monthly bills and everything like that. But of course, he still does stuff. He has a television show, I want to say. He's writing these books, doing, speaking engagements and things like that. So he's still making money, but does he need to make the money? No, he doesn't. He is definitely financially secure where he does not have to work another day if he does not want to. And that is where I would like to be. Like once I get to that point, it's not like I'm going to retire and do nothing, but I want to be able to work when I want to work. I want to do like more volunteer work, missions trips, things of that nature, and not have to worry about generating an income for me to be able to live off of. So that's what the FIRE movement is all about. Couple other things they talked about, and what I have learned from reading this book is, just like I mentioned earlier, I realized I need to be reading at least a financial book at least once a year, maybe every couple of years. The reason why is things are changing. Things aren't changing dramatically, but just like how they said, set up certain things and automate it, your savings, your investing, especially with, it's an election cycle. There might be, a new president. Well, there's going to be a new president in office and everything. And so that affects some of the tax codes, things of that nature, student loans, all of those things can likely change with the new administration. So, staying abreast of with your accountant, checking in with your accountant, getting the newest and the latest information every so often. So you'll know, hey, this changed. When I first started investing with this 5 years ago, I couldn't do this. Now I'm able to do that. Just like with the HSA plans, not the HSA. What is the plan? The 529 plans that you can have for your children for school and stuff like that. I remember when I first heard about these, when my children were really, really young, I was not interested in the 529 plan because it was like only allocated for them to go to school. And, what if they didn't go to school? What if they didn't want to go to college and stuff like that? So I didn't invest in the 529. Since then, now the 529 has changed. It's like, okay, you can use it not only for college, but if you want to use it for elementary school, where it's like a private school, to pay their tuition, you can use that 529 for that. If they decide, hey, they don't want to use, they don't go to college or whatever, or you don't need to use the 529 for their college education or for their primary education, then that can be passed on to another child. When my kids were first born and young, that was not an option. So I realized that I need to stay abreast of different money topics and see how have policies changed over the years, what has changed in terms of laws, regulations, tax codes that are now making certain things that were not beneficial to me before or didn't seem as beneficial. Now they have more freedom, more flexibility, or they have more options available that I need to look into, and I need to be aware of these things and not just be like, oh, well, back when I researched it 5 years ago or 10 years ago, this is what it was. Because even with the student loans and everything, things are changing. And like I said, with the new administration coming into place, some more things could possibly be changing, even with the investment accounts and stuff. The 401k plan is just part of the tax code. So usually when a new president comes in, the tax code gets, changed up a little bit and everything. So I realized, hey, I need to stay abreast of these topics and see what has changed, stay in contact with my accountant, like what has changed, what is going to be beneficial with me, to me, and for my situation, so that, yeah, I can be making the best financial decisions and not just going off of old information and everything. All right, so that's what I wanted to mention. And then let me see. Curtis says, yes, 529 was limited and hard to get back if it wasn't for school. Now has changed. Yes, thank you. So true. Yeah, I mean, the flexibility with that 529 plan now, it makes it very, very, very lucrative. And like literally, you can set that up now where it was very rigid before. Now you can set it up for like generational wealth. Really, you can. So let's say we created the 529 plan for, I'm just going to use my son since today's his birthday. Let's say we did set it up when he was, young at 1 years old. And now we had it for 15 years, which we don't, or whatever. And he decided not to go to college, or even if he did go to college, we were able to pay for it or whatever and didn't have to touch the 529. Now, guess what? I can change the beneficiary of that 529, and I can say, hey, this 529 can be used for his son. And so since it's generating, it's in the stock market and it's gaining money, it could have been gaining that money for 15 years. Then if he didn't decide to go to school, 18 years, 20 years, now we passed it on to his child, if he has a child or whatever. And that's like another 18 years of that money building. Like you can literally create generational wealth for people. So until they change, the rules or whatever. But right now, if I would have known then, which is hard to say because like I said, it was very rigid, but now you can just keep passing it on to different people, and keep it in the family, and just keep letting it grow, and use it for different things. So if you wanted your child to go to a private school and at one point in time you don't have the means, now that money could be used to help the grandchild go to private school, and you might still have enough for the grandchild to go to college, all kinds of stuff. So yeah, so I realized I need to stay abreast of all the different changes and things that are going on. The last thing he mentioned in his book, or the last kind of chapter of the book, was just talking about money topics and money talk. Y'all, it is so hard to talk about money to family and friends. Especially I shouldn't say this, but people don't like to talk about how much they're making, which I understand, because you don't want anybody to think that you're not making enough or you're in a bad situation. But we need to have more money talks and more money discussions so that people are educated about what they can do with their money and the best practices that could benefit them, and the mistakes that you've made or the mistakes that they've made, and not let it be so much shame around it or anything like that, because hey, you're not making as much as you wanted to make, or you should be making more. And so he talks about that, just talking about it with family and friends, making sure like your parents are set up for them to be okay when it's time for them to retire. And that is a very real issue, especially with my parents are getting older. So I need to make sure, hey, if something was to happen to you, how do you want to be, not only how do you want to be taken care of, but do we have enough money for you to be taken care of in the way that you desire? Like, if you wanted to stay home, like let's say one of my parents had a really bad illness and they had to get, round the clock care. Can we afford to have a nurse come in to the home? Or if you had to be in a nursing home or some type of facility, is there enough money for that? So just having those different discussions about money is important. He also talked about like if you're wanting to get married or already married, making sure that you and your spouse are on the same page when it comes to money, debt, paying off debt, like just having those conversations, those taboo conversations, to make sure that everybody is on the same page. And even talking about like negotiating your salary and raises and things of that nature, and being able to have those conversations and making sure that they're not taboo, so that you can make sure, hey, you are getting the appropriate salary for your skill set, for this position that you're in, and knowing how to navigate those different situations that come up. So it was a very good book. Like I said, he talks really candidly about money, but he gives timeful information, factual information, but he does have a sense of humor about it in the book. So, but like I said, it's not a book that you can just digest in a week. You can definitely read it in like a week, but to fully get the benefit of it, digest it, and put everything in place, I would suggest give yourself at least a month. And honestly, so his book is set up like it's 6 steps that you're supposed to implement. So really, if you just did one of those steps each week, it would be like a 6-week process, so to speak. So that's why I said I'm going to read it again, with me having the mindset and with me having the capacity to implement, make sure I properly implement. Like most of the things I've implemented, but there's like little missing pieces here that I need to go back in and make sure that they're sealed up like they're supposed to and everything. All right. But I'm going to wrap it up. Does anybody have any questions or comments? I'm going to give y'all a moment to drop it in. Hopefully this has been helpful. And thank y'all for joining. But if no one has any questions or comments, then I will see y'all on Saturday. Remember, I'm going to be doing Side Hustle Saturday. So be on the lookout for when I post that. That time, like I said, it's going to be like around 12 or 1. I haven't decided, but I will be doing Side Hustle Saturday. All right. So I hope everyone enjoys the rest of their week. Take care, guys.